We'll be starting in earnest, but let's call it 10 minutes past 9.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Meanwhile, if you noticed, I just shared this course material with you guys on the platform. So you can do well to download with your copy while I present the lecture. So just download the copy of this material. If you really on board, only mute your mic, okay? Immediately you come on board, just mute your mic.
In fact, we already shared the manual, the slide on the platform.
Okay.
I mean, for those who came in late, who we added late, about 3 or 4, we'll have this as benefits. Thank you. Can everybody please mute their mics? Loretta, please mute your mic. Yusuf, mute your mic. Thank you.
Okay. Maybe mute on this one. Mute on it.
Akim Oyeyemi, please mute your mic. So when it is 9:10, we'll start.
Muted.
Okay. This 10 minutes past 9, and we still do not have a full house. That notwithstanding, we are going to proceed. Others can join us as we proceed. Once again, you're all welcome to this class. And like we said, the course is SWPCE 602, Professional Ethics and Accountability. So in the course of taking this course, we would come to understand social workers, or what makes social workers professionals, and what makes the profession or the discipline a profession. Social workers are trained specifically in social work discipline to help build partnerships, to help build connections, to help build interrelationship with other professionals that are working with the field or within the field of psychology, psychosocial intervention, caregivers and families, networking with communities with the main aim of creating a conducive and supportive environment that would help or enable service users to get adequate services or treatment models that are capable of changing their lives for the better. For the purpose of this course, whenever we make mention of service user or service provider, we are referring to the social worker as the service provider and the clients as the service users, right? So as social workers, we drive our implementation or we implement our programs by influencing policies and ensuring that policy change reaches the target population. Policies that are geared toward addressing poverty, unemployment, housing, social justice, supporting the development of preventive programs, preventive and curative programs for the less privileged. We are also focused on early intervention treatments, as well as post-treatment with individuals, groups, families, communities, and lots more. So we see that as social workers, we have a lot to do as far as the society we find ourselves is concerned. And the social work profession is found in every strata of the community's institution. No wonder, according to the International Federation of Social Workers, IFSW, and the International Association of Schools of Social Work, IASSW, they define social work profession as that profession that facilitates social change and development, social cohesion and empowerment, as well as the liberation of people, using the principles of social justice, human rights, collective responsibility, as well as respect for diversity to drive in implementation of the goals and objectives of social work. Now, social work, it's scientific in the sense that it is based on principles as well as theories that governs its practice. So the social work profession is underpinned by theories of social work. We also borrow theories from other disciplines and professions in social sciences, in humanities, to drive home our services. Social work profession is without ethics, and that is what this course is going to expose us to. Social work profession has its ethics, and that ethics makes the profession accountable. So social workers are expected to be responsible, are expected to adhere to the professional ethics, the codes and conducts, as well as principles that governs the profession. This involves being aware of what is expected of you, your actions, your decisions, your actions and inactions, as well as responsibility within the scope of practice. And in the course of this class, we will be exposed to all these recipes, so to speak, that makes up the social work profession when it has to do with accountability. We would also be exposed to the importance of practicing in a responsible manner, why this is even necessary. And this would also help us to see that as social workers, we are not expected to practice just because we are moved by our emotions. Rather, there are certain principles that should guide our practice and in the course of our relationship with our clients. But then, for us to have a better picture of what is expected of us, we would begin by understanding what a profession is all about and how social work profession or how social work practice can be justified, can be seen through the lenses of a profession. So we understand a profession, what a profession is all about, how social work practice is a profession, and how practitioners, that is social workers, are considered to be professionals and why it's expected for them to practice in a professional way. One, according to Roscoe, he defined a profession as a group pursuing a learned art as a common calling in the spirit of public service. Now, according to Roscoe, a profession can be referred to a group of people whose interest is to render public service. And this public service is not just geared towards achieving or satisfying their emotional needs, but then to address societal ills by coming together to develop their arts of intervention, to drive home intervention in a way that will address people's need, a target population. And to achieve this, they need to come together to develop their skills, to improve in service delivery. And that is what social work is all about. You agree with me that you all in this class, you from somewhere. Your expertise, your professionals, you've been trained in different fields of endeavors, including social work. Granted, you're here not by mistake, but deliberately because you want to improve. You're here deliberately because you want to learn the art of helping. As humans, by nature, as social beings, we have this default setting to render helping services to other people. That makes us humans. But the difference between a social worker practicing social work and a random person rendering the act of humanity is the fact that the social worker does that in a professional way. And as we proceed, I would help us to understand the difference between you as a social worker rendering service and another person who is doing that as a human. And like I said earlier, social workers do that in a professional way. Why other persons might do that out of their emotions or because they are humans. Furthermore, a profession is a job that requires specific training and is regulated by certain standards. Yes. So what makes a profession is the fact that there are some laid down principles, there are some standard ethical codes that governs its practice. You cannot say you're a professional or what you're practicing or your profession is a profession when there are no laid down principles, there are no guide that are set in place to checkmate people's excesses, to keep in check people's emotions and excesses. And that is where we see social work going through these definitions of a profession, or going through the lenses of this definition, or seeing social work through these lenses would help us to justify the fact that social work is a profession, because there are some laid down rules that governs the profession. Because you're a professional or you're a social worker does not mean you can practice social work the way you like. That makes it a profession. I used to tell my students, you need to understand what you are into before accepting it. For example, those in the nursing profession, you oftentimes hear them say, okay, fine, you need to for the females, you need to pack your hair well, you need to be well dressed. The profession even detects as far as the kind of deodorants, the kind of spray you apply. Some persons will say, why are they telling us what to do, to tell us what to put on, to tell us what to spray on our body? Is it not too much? Now, you need to understand, you don't just jump into a profession without understanding the details or what is expected of you. You need to know what that profession, where it stands, and what is expected of the professionals. That is how you can do better in that profession. And in the social work space, we refer to that assessment as self-awareness or use of self. We'll get to that as we proceed. The example I just cited, it becomes very necessary and important when you begin to reflect on why is the profession saying we should not do this? And why is it even important to adhere to those things? For example, you're a nurse and you're putting on a repugnant, sometimes not like the smell of these perfumes are bad. No, they are not bad. But people comes with different conditions, especially maybe during pregnancy, during childbirth, or maybe someone is sick. They react to these things differently. So to be on the safe side, it's better you avoid putting those strong perfumes so that your clients or the patients around you will not be affected. Or is it about packing your hair well? Let's assume you're working in a psychiatric setting. You're asked to arrange your hair well and you're complaining. Wait until a psychiatric patient track your hair. That's when you learn the hard way. Or is it about putting on long earrings and you're working in a pediatric ward with children and you're asked not to put on long earrings and you're trying to protest, or you are adamant? Okay, wait until a baby tracks that earring and you now have a cut on your ear. That's when you learn the hard way. So what am I trying to say? There are rules that governs a profession. And you don't just jump into a profession because you see other persons doing it. You must learn. You must be exposed. You must understand why those principles are there, why you must practice them. And that leads us to accountability. Yes, because of these set standards, the society and even service users knows the position of this profession, and they expect us to practice in line with those set standards. And that makes us accountable to the public. That makes us responsible. That makes us professional. Now, let us go further as we consider who are professionals. One, or before we proceed, before we venture into that, I would like to set your minds abreast of this fact. I like my class to be interactive because that's where learning takes place, or that's how effective learning takes place. The interactive would be two ways. One, while I'm talking, try to picture yourself And as time goes on, I would encourage you, or it would be encouraging for you to ask questions so that I can make further explanation. So while I discuss on who professionals are, please try to see yourself in the picture. That would help you to shape your personality, to fit in. Number one, professionals are experts with the expert power. Permit me to borrow a street jargon. To be professional social worker, no be cho. You must create your expertise that yes, I am a social worker, or you're a professional social worker. It's not just by saying, okay, do you know I'm a social worker? Or it's not just by saying, it's not just by introducing yourself wherever you go. People should see through you that yes, this is who you are. That is why, as a professional, or as someone who has come to practice this profession, you must understand what it entails and then make some necessary adjustment to fit in. Not expecting the profession to fit into you. You have to fit into the profession. That makes you an expert. Do you handle problems as an expert? Following these laid down principles, that makes you a professional. The next one is harmonize knowledge and wisdom. Yes, there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Some persons will say, how can you differentiate that? Now, to put it in simple terms or in a simple way, you have parents and your parents were not opportune to go to school. They now have you and they now decided to send you to school. And even if you went to Harvard and come back, my brother, you're not wiser than them. What you have is knowledge, but what they have is wisdom. So for your knowledge to be converted to wisdom, you need to live and apply your knowledge. In the process of applying, getting results, that is when you become wiser. And that is where wisdom comes in. So wisdom is the practical application of knowledge. So as a professional social worker, it is expected that you apply classroom knowledge in real life situation. There are some persons, I used to tell my students, there are some persons that can be very intelligent when it comes to academic activities. They are very excellent. But when it comes to life, social intelligence, they are found wanting. And to me, that is not wisdom. You must be able, whatever you're learning in class, you must be able to translate it to real life situation. Yes, it will also interest you to know that social work is even about 70% practical and 30% classroom work. So your ability to harmonize knowledge and wisdom is what makes you a professional social worker. Yes, you must be able to use your expertise in a responsible way. The fact that you're a professional social worker places you in an elevated pedestal, right? It elevates your position a bit, and care not taken, you begin to practice or you begin to see yourself, or pride might set in, or you might begin to abuse the privilege you have. That is where using your expert power responsibly comes in. Not taking advantage of those who come around you or who come to you. It might interest you to know that people that comes to you most times are people that falls within the high and mighty class. In the street, sometimes when we talk about social work helping people, what comes top of the minds of people is the fact that social workers are all about helping the poor people, all about helping the less privileged. That's not true. In fact, in our contemporary society today, the most affected is even the high and mighty. Who are the most divorced today? The high and mighty. Who are the ones having mental issues today? If you go to psychiatric hospitals and even NDLA and the rest, you will notice that there are children from the high and mighty. And they need our intervention. So gone are the days where we begin to feel that, oh, when we talk about social work, we are talking about the people, the poor people, the less privileged. No. So you could even see a well-placed, a high-class citizen coming to you for assistance. And you begin to feel, this one that this big man is coming to me. You begin to feel big, and you begin to see how you can want to take advantage of the situation. That would be so unprofessional. Professionals too are also marked or identified by their correctness. Yes, nobody is expecting you to be perfect, but at least you must be nearly perfect when it comes to correctness. You must always have reasons, justifiable reasons for your actions. Yes, there is always a skill to place your options before settling for any decisions. We are not moved by our emotions. That is why you are expected to always be correct. Because when you're not correct, your interventions becomes questionable. And once your intervention becomes questionable, then you've acted in an unprofessional manner. Yes, a professional needs to be culturally oriented. That does not mean you must go about understanding people's culture, but you must understand the fact that there is cultural diversity, and you must tailor your intervention in a way that fits in, that suits your respondent, your clients, or the service users. Yes, professionals are also identified by their ability to network by knowledge synergy. Yes. You see, when we talk about social work profession, oftentimes people are always, I used to call this some kind of either inferiority complex or superiority complex. Sometimes you see people trying to say that, my profession is the most important or useful or needed. And this oftentimes happens in a medical setting, where you see other professionals trying to project themselves as being the most important. If you're familiar with the Nigerian medical setting, you understand what I'm trying to say. But as social workers, we don't dabble in such. We understand. We understand by multiple professionals. And as social workers, we act professionally by bringing together with our knowledge, our professional expertise. We use our skills to bring together, instead of allowing these professionals, different professionals, nurses, doctors, physiotherapists, and the rest to fight among themselves and say, okay, fine, I'm the most useful person. We try to use our skills to bring these professionals together to put in their best to ensuring that this patient is okay. And in the process of doing so, we ensure that we supervise the process to ensure that this client is not being taken advantage of. Apart from working with the actual client, the environment surrounding the ensure that this client is adequately taken care of. That is where we see your skills in professional networking, your capacity in networking and synergizing knowledge. Let us now look at ethics. But before we proceed, like I said earlier, I like it when my class is interactive. Let me see if we are following up. Please, I would like you to ask questions based on what we've discussed so far, or where it's not clear, please feel free to ask questions. You can indicate by raising your hands using the icon, or you can easily unmute yourself and ask a question. I hope I can be heard.
Yes, sir.
Okay, question, please.
Sir, my name is Loretta.
Okay, you're welcome.
And thank you, sir. I want to ask, you said we should not use emotion, that we should not be emotionally carried away. But I don't know, because me, I feel before you can say you are helping someone, I always put my emotion in it too. Don't know how to separate my emotion from it, because that's what gives me the drive to do what I do. For example, so are you hearing me?
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Okay. For example, during our IT period, I worked in a home with autism children. I was really, really moved. I was emotionally attached to that work. And that helped me to really get in, to know the job more, to really get into the children, to understand them. I don't know about other people, but I was able to do that with emotion. So when you now said we shouldn't put emotion, I'm now thinking, how do I
Separate
help
that.
those children? Sir?
Yeah, you're now thinking how can you separate that, right?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir, because that emotion really helped me. It really helped me because those children, I realized the kind of help they need. If you are not emotionally attached, you can't really do that work. I
Okay.
don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your reaction. That shows you were following, right? And let me
Yes, sir.
correct something. You're not wrong, right? The thing is,
Okay.
in social work and social sciences, we welcome different opinions, various opinions, and that's how we challenge learning, right? And learning can only take place when we challenge ideas. Okay. Now, the point is, there's a principle of social work that has to do with empathy. And empathy is an emotional reaction that connects us with our clients. That means via empathy, you can feel your client's pains. And that feeling of your client's pains can move you to action, which is compassion. So you cannot show compassion without you first feeling or understanding and connecting with your clients. I don't know if you get the point. Now,
Yes, sir.
also what we refer to as compassionate fatigue. Now, a situation whereby that connection with your client's situation, because you're not keeping your emotions in check, you've now allowed it to overwhelm you. Now, in the process, mind you, our clients are very sensitive. They are super sensitive. And that's why at some point, your clients might even be looking up to you as a role model. And that was why I said earlier, do not always expect your clients to be people that come from low class. Some of them are very intelligent. Most of your clients might be doctors. Most of your clients are lawyers. Most of your clients might be professors. So they are looking at you. Wherever you're making a mistake, like I used to tell my colleagues and students sometimes, I said, these days, Gen Z children, they can even identify their parents that are intelligent and parents that are not intelligent. Unlike in those days where children look at their parents as the most wisest people. These days, Gen Z children, if you have a child and you're not intelligent, your child knows. And your child can tell you to your very face that, mommy, you're not smart. In the same way, our clients knows when we are making mistakes because most of them are intelligent. So our clients will know when their problem is telling on us. When we begin to allow their problem to overwhelm us, in most cases, you begin to see yourself, if care is not taken, you begin to see yourself crying uncontrollably or displaying emotions in a way that you would even need help. And the situation will not be, your client came to you for help. And you're not responding as if you even need help more than your clients. That is why from the beginning, you need to keep your emotions in check. That does not mean that as a social worker, you should not have feelings or you should not show empathy for your clients. But those things must be in check. I will use another example to help drive home this point. There is this student.
Thank you very much.
There's this student of mine, sometime years back, that was passing one early morning and she saw people gathering. And she rushed to find out what was happening. And she noticed it was an abandoned baby, a newborn baby that was abandoned by the refuse bin. And out of emotions, and as a social worker, she took that child home, bathed the child, took care of the child, and decided to keep that child with her. Now, granted, that is a very beautiful thing to do. But that is not social work. That is you responding to your emotions. Do you know that it is even possible that the mother of that child is somewhere watching you, just like in the case of the biblical Moses? Every mother that abandoned a child, that mother is somewhere, directly or indirectly, or there are informants around. They know where that baby is going to. What if they still raise up a propaganda or an allegation that you stole the baby? Now, as a professional, you must understand the procedure involved in adopting such a child. You must understand the agency, you must identify the agencies that are responsible in taking care of situations like that and refer the matter to those agencies. And if you're interested in adopting that child, then you must subject yourself through this process. So your emotions, instead of your emotions moving you to act in a way that will expose you to further problems in the course of helping that child, your emotions should be in check as a professional, and you should be able to direct your intervention, your assistance, a helping hand to that child through the right channel. We have social welfare agencies that are responsible, starting with the responsibility of taking care of abandoned children and helping to identify foster homes or foster parents that can adopt such a child. So why not refer the matter or take that child to these agencies or call the attention of these agencies and free yourself from any legal liabilities in the future? So you now see what the point I was trying to establish when I said we must always keep our emotions in check. I hope that's right.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. So, in the absence of any further question, let us now look at what professional ethics is all about. We've been talking about ethics, we've been talking about principles. What are professional ethics? Professional ethics are not designed by professionals in the profession. For example, the fact that you're a social worker does not mean you must come up with those ethics. Those ethics are there. We came to meet them and we must follow them. That makes you a social worker, right? So professional ethics or profession, like we earlier said, is a vocation founded upon specialized high educational training. The purpose for which, the purpose of this training is to provide services to others. And professional ethics helps to serve as compass to the personnel, to the individuals that cooperate with these expected standards. Professional ethics are like compass, are like guide that helps you as a social worker in equity to understand what to do and what not to do in a given time. Going back to the example, the experience I shared earlier, as a social worker and as a human being, your first response to a situation like that is to help. Oh, this poor child, and the child is so cute. Oh, your first response will be to save the child. But then you remember you're a professional social worker. You pause and you think for a moment. What is expected of you as a professional? That guide is what we refer to as professional ethics. Professional ethics is concerned with one's behavior and conduct when carrying out a professional work. Yes, you know, we have different ways of doing things. Yes, but as a social worker, while carrying out your responsibility, professional ethics comes to play when you allow the ethics that governs the social work profession to detect your behavior, to guide how you act, how you respond in the course of your professional relationship with your clients. And mind you, these professional ethics are codified in various cultures. So that means professional ethics are cultural sensitive, right? So like they said, to every rules there is an exception. Okay, so if it's expected or courtesy demands that you smile with your client, that does not mean you're not going to take into consideration the cultural background of your clients. That does not mean you will not consider the situation of your client. Because there are ways you smile. Sometimes your client might feel you're mocking or you're laughing at him or her. But there's some cultures that do not permit people to smile when they are expressing themselves. So these are things you must take into consideration. So it's not a rigid or a rules that are cast on stones. So professional ethics and ethical norms, values and principles are a set of guides that serve as compass to the profession and the ethics in decision making within the profession. There are times you'll be faced with what we refer to as ethical dilemma, a situation where you're faced with two conflicting opinions that are right. The professional ethics will help you to settle for the best options. Yes, these two opinions are right, but you must use the professional guide, which is the professional ethics, to settle for the best. Because, like I always say, your profession or your practice, your intervention, your relationship with your client would always be under scrutiny, no matter how long. So, whatever you do with your client, just know that it might be called to question. You know, you see, people we work with, they are humans. And humans oftentimes can be very unpredictable. For example, let me give us an example so that it will help us to understand the beauty and the importance of adhering to professional ethics that will make us accountable, right? Let's say you're working with this, this troubled family, dysfunctional family. They're having issues. Every week you will settle their problems. And directly or indirectly, you're trying to project the idea of divorce. Now, the fact that couples are having disequilibria, couples are having challenges, couples are having misunderstanding does not mean the love is not there. In most cases, people get stronger by virtue of problems. Yes, the way they have problems and they resolve it brings them together. In fact, there are some persons that will tell you, whenever we have problems, we have a fight, and after that fight, we have sex. That's the best way of settling our problems. And you, because you feel that, okay, you're a social worker and these couples, they've been having problems often, I think the best thing is to divorce. And you're not projecting the idea of divorce. They might accept. And later in the future, they will have you to blame for separating them. And you'll be in problems. And by the time they begin to make a case, you say, yes, we have proof that our social worker advised us to separate. And the professional body set up to investigate issues like this go into investigation and notice that, yes, at some point in time, you encourage them to go their separate ways, you'll be in problem. So that is why, as social workers, we need to subject ourselves to professional ethics. There are some matters that would have a criminal turn, even in the future. And in Nigerian law, it will interest you to know that there are no time limits for criminal matters. So even if you committed a crime, a criminal act 10 years ago, even in the next 50 years, you can still be called to question. So these are things we should not handle, or we are not expected to handle as if they are tribal matters. They are weighty matters. So professional ethic consequences based on ethics, outcomes, the ideals are based on ethics, characters, and principles which are codified, and as social workers, we need to understand them. As we proceed, we'll come to understand or identify these ethics and the principles, and what to do whenever there is a conflict or whenever we are faced with ethical dilemma. How can we settle for the best opinion? At this point, I will also want to encourage us. You have the material at your leisure. Please do well to read ahead of class, so that when you attend lectures like this, we would flow smoothly, and the ability to ask questions and assimilate what is being explained will be top notch. So let us now look at the basic principles and components of ethics. Now, what makes up ethics? What are the basic principles and components that makes up ethics? 1, the utility principles. 2 is the right principles. 3 is the fairness principles, right? Now, the utility principles has to do with the use, the principles in use. Is it applicable to the client? The fact that we have multiple ethics and principles does not mean all principles are applicable to that client. For example, to every rules, there's an extent to which it applies to a client. Now, as a profession, the social work profession is a very local and international. It's a local profession with international flavor. How do I mean? Wherever you find yourself, whichever country or land you find yourself, you must practice social work in line, in accordance with the laws of the land. Now, it has an international flavor in the sense that we must also help to drive home policies in line with our relationship with international laws. For example, Nigeria, we are signatories to the Child Rights Act, international child right law, right? And even some states we've domesticated it, and some states too have also domesticated it. So even when we have our tradition, where we treat children as, will I say, mechanized tools. Those days, if your richness as a man can be traced through the number of children you have, especially in those areas where they depend solely on farming. Because they believe that if you have multiple children, you have a very big farm. So your children are considered to be farming implements. So traditionally, we view children as children are expected to be very hardworking. In fact, there's some part of Nigeria where those days, if you're lazy, your parents will send you to school so that you go to school and they will flog you. It is believed that lazy children should go to school, while hardworking children should end up in the farm. That is their tradition. But then, since Nigeria is now signatory to some of these international treaties, like the Child Rights Act, there's now a shift from that idea. And as social workers, we are beginning to see how we can drive home policies to discourage and challenge such repugnant practices. Right? That makes us, or that is where the international flavor comes in. Because we've already agreed to be parties to this signatory, then we must put a stop to these repugnant practices that sees women or that encourages child labor. Right? So now, as a social worker, you're practicing, you want to ensure that the laws of the land is being considered in practice. And one of the things we know in our criminal law has to do with accomplice or accessories before and after the fact. You are working with the clients, and you notice that the client wants to commit suicide. And you say, okay, fine, it's the client's decision, so you will not interfere. And in Nigerian law, suicidal act or committing suicide is a criminal offense. So as a social worker working with a client that is contemplating suicide, you are aware and you decide to keep quiet. That automatically makes you an accomplice. So if the government is coming to you or the law enforcement agency is coming, they will also hold you responsible. So to be on the safe side, if a client is committing or contemplating suicide, while assisting that client to avoid committing suicide, please direct the attention of the law enforcement agencies to that effect. That is the utility principles we are trying to say. So there are different principles in social work that applies in different situations. So you will not say, okay, fine, because of the principle of confidentiality, you wouldn't want to tell another person that this client is contemplating suicide. No. Now, the right principle has to do with adhering to the rights of this client. The fact that client comes to you does not deprive them of their rights. Those fundamental human rights, they are still humans. Even when a client is dying, as social workers, we are expected to help that client die as a human being, not as an animal. Even though the client commits an abominable act, even though the client was caught killing another person, yes, he is a human. The fact that he made a mistake, two wrongs cannot make a right. We should also help that even when the court is saying that your client has been sentenced to death, you should also supervise to ensure that that client die as a human. That client's right is respected to the end. That is the right principle. What about fairness? Yes, you must be impartial and neutral. This is not because, okay, fine, it's from my tribe. Oftentimes you'll be saddled with the responsibility of helping in the equitable distribution of goods and services to people, to clients. There should be no traces of favoritism to a certain group of people, maybe because you're a man and you want to favor men, or because you're a woman, you want to favor women, or because you're from a particular tribe, you want to favor. No, especially when you find yourself in internally displaced camps or refugee camps. That is where you see situations like this. What about social justice principles? Yes, there are some principles that are geared toward pushing for social justice. While pushing for social justice, you should not be encouraging activities that will promote injustice. Yes, we also have professional competence principle. Yes, you must, as an ethics, you are expected to practice in a way that will demonstrate your professional competence. You must be able to practice in a way that will show that, yes, you're a professional social worker. You must be efficient. Efficiency principle, your ability. There's a big difference between being efficient and effective. Yes, both of them are good, but to some extent, one is more, will I say, relevant depending on the situation. Efficiency has to do with the timing. Effective has to do with how good. So you can be good at something, but it takes you days or years to accomplish it. But efficiency has to do with you being good at something and doing it within a stipulated time. The transparency principle has to do with you being transparent. An accountable principle. The fact that you're doing something and people know that, yes, there are traces of the fact that, yes, you're doing something the right way, and this can build trust. Yes, as social workers, we must practice in a way that encourages people to trust us, to bank on us. It is only when people trust you, they come to you for assistance. I was watching a clip yesterday, a documentary of some persons that were trafficked, and they asked them a question. Why did you allow yourself to stay in this situation for so long when you knew that it's possible to get help? And the lady said it was difficult because they never trusted people that came around. So as social workers, we must practice in a way that we can win and earn the trust of those we seek to help. And one way we can do this is to practice in a transparent way, by applying transparency principle, and also to be accountable in all our dealings. And of course, like I said earlier, we must practice in a way that is in line with the laws of the land. Yes, the laws of the land is sacrosanct, is a grand norm. So you cannot be a Nigerian and you're practicing as if you're in Ghana. So you must encourage your clients to act in a way that will not contravene the laws of the land. I will take for an example. In Nigeria, same-sex marriage is wrong. But you have a client that wants to marry the same, his fellow gender. You wouldn't say, okay, because of the principle of non-judgmental attitude and the principle of client self-determination, the client should be allowed. That would be you practicing in a way that goes contrary to the laws of the land. So given to the fact that you have to discourage your clients, helping your client to say, if you do this, this is what Nigerian law is saying. You might end yourself in so and so places. So if you think such laws should come up, or there should be a law to protect this set of persons because of your own reasons, by virtue of your own research, then you must do it the proper way. Trying to lobby the National Assembly or the State House of Assembly to come up with a law that would allow these persons to express their sexuality devoid of their gender. Now, once you succeed in sponsoring the bill and the president assents to it, it becomes a law. Then these persons can feel free to marry themselves. But as far as there are no laws on ground to support that action, then you must practice in a way that will not be in disobedience or that will not contravene the existing law. When we meet in our next class, we will start our conversation with the meaning of the code of ethics. Now, this is how I start my lectures. Whenever we meet, I try to see how you still remember or recall the things we discussed in our last class. So please, I will like us to go back and read the material and also look into what we've discussed so far today. It will also help you to understand most of the explanations I put in place, right? And also read ahead of class so that we'll make it more interactive. So that's where we'll come to the end of our class today. But before we finally wrap it up, I would like to hear from you if you have any question. Okay, I can see your message, Chinwe Ibuzo. Thank you for your message. Thank you, sir, for the explanation. Well detailed. I'm loving the class. I can assure you will love it more, and even other lectures. So just prepare ahead of time and pay attention. Please, I encourage you to ask questions. I encourage you to ask questions. When you ask questions, you will know. Okay? So you enjoy not just this class, you also enjoy others. Thank you, Chinwe.
So
So
please,
if you
can I ask
cannot,
a question?
please feel free to ask. Your
You
name,
said
just let us know.
Sorry, my name is Loretta.
Okay, Loretta, please speak up.
So please, you just said something about if you are in a country where same-sex marriage is, you're in a country where same-sex marriage is not allowed, like in Nigeria now. And then as a social worker, you are faced with that kind of thing. How do you sort it out when normally, it's not even to even say it is even like an abomination to us in Nigeria. How do you handle a situation like that? How do you discourage it from happening? How do you go about it?
You, Loretta, you're a very
Sir?
emotional person. That's good. You're very emotional. I can feel it from here. The thing is, you're saying that from your own end. There are
Okay.
a lot of, will I say, uh, gays and lesbians in Nigeria. The fact that those things are repugnant to you does not mean they are repugnant to them. And from what you're saying now, or your reaction, it's like if a client comes to you and mentions such, you feel like you have goosebumps and your body will be itching you because you don't want that kind of discussion. And that will be discouraging. In fact, that's one of the things that is even making most of them not to come to us to tell us their problems. And that's what we were saying earlier on when we talked about accountability, transparency, as well as professional competence principle. We must practice in a way that will encourage people to come and tell us their problems so that we can know how to help them. The society is dynamic. Mind you, those days, some of the things we never envisaged will happen around us. They are now here with us. Those days we used to watch them on movies,
Mm-hmm.
but they are now here with us. So what makes you think in the nearest future, Nigeria won't practice same-sex marriage if this war is still continues? It's not a matter of whom. The world is dynamic. Yes,
Sir,
we
please,
must tell us.
how do you handle that kind of thing? How do you handle it?
Fine. That's what I said earlier. That's what I said earlier. You see, one of the areas we are getting it wrong, is because we are allowing our culture, our tradition to die off naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Our identity is being wiped out via westernization and civilization. If you check other countries, especially the Asian countries, they are still developing, they are still becoming westernized while carrying their culture along. Fine, granted, there are some of our cultures that there is need for us to drop them because it doesn't promote development. But yet, in Nigeria, we tend to carry every Western culture along because we feel so inferior. We are suffering from inferiority complex. In fact, very soon, some of our dialects or languages will die off. So there is need. as a social worker, if you're concerned about these things not coming up in the future, there's need for us to go back to the drawing board. There's need for us to see how to encourage some of our traditional cultures to come up, some of our traditional practices. Okay, see for example, check our internet space. We have a law that discourages same-sex marriage or same-sex. But we don't have a law that discourages transgender, how is it called? Either transgender or that term transgender is foreign to us. Or we don't have a law that discourages cross-dressing. Go to our internet space. You will see young Nigeria's content creators putting on clothes, a male putting on clothes of a woman, and a woman putting on clothes of a man for the purpose of creating content. And ask yourself, where is it driving to? The same person that is putting on the male clothes that is a woman, or the same man that is putting on a woman clothes as a man, tomorrow will come to tell you he's a transgender. Or he's hiding under that cross-dressing to express his sexuality. You never can tell. It is possible most of them are even gays and lesbians. And we are looking at those things, we are smiling and we are happy. But we never can tell where it's driving to. It's eroding, it's eating deep into the fabric of our culture, replacing it with our culture. And today you're telling me tomorrow it's not possible for Nigeria to be a same-sex country. It is very possible if we continue this way. But as social workers, we can address it now by beginning to drag people or drag our society back to our culture. And there is what we refer to as indigenous social work in social work profession.
Thank you very much, sir.
On the other way around, there are some persons that will say, okay, fine, these persons, we have a lot of them, they are majority. They might want to say, okay, fine, because these people are plenty. It's just that in Nigeria, we don't have data bank. If you have a data bank in Nigeria, you'll be amazed. Sorry, with all due respect, some of us, we even have them in our houses without knowing. Some of our children are part of them, but we don't know. Yes, if we have a data bank, we'll be amazed at the number of these gays and same-sex or lesbians we have in this country. You'll be shocked. And you know, Nigeria, one thing with our country is everything is being politicized. Let's assume we're people of 200 million and maybe out of that we now have about 50 to 100 million, even 20 million that are gay and lesbian. You will see some politician will begin to push just because he wants their vote. So what makes you think if we continue this way, we won't practice same sex? So as social workers, we need to be very deep. That is why I personally, I have this definition of social work as the diagnosis and prognosis of social problems. So we are not just after curative measures. We are also after preventive measures. So using our today to justify or to identify what will happen, what might likely to happen tomorrow, and addressing it today before we even reach tomorrow. So those are the indicators. It is possible. And if we don't want it, you and I can take action today, not necessarily waiting till tomorrow. So in the absence of any further question, let's call it up here. Let's call it a day, knowing that you'll be having another class. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
But I have a question, or that's why I'm raising up my hand.
Hello. Hello. Is that Oluwagboyega?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, my question is,
Sorry,
uh,
let's know who is speaking, please.
should I continue?
Yes, please tell us who is speaking.
My name is Olawale.
Oh, you're welcome, please. Please speak up.
All right. Thank you very much. My question is that can we refer to as professional ethics as same thing as code of conduct?
Okay.
That's my
Yeah,
is it
you
in
can refer.
professional ethics. Can we still refer it as a code of conduct as well?
Yes, yes, you can. But every profession has its jargons. Now, for the sake of social work profession and the extent to which this ethics covers, I agree with you. We can refer to it as code of conduct, but then I would prefer we use it as professional ethics because it goes beyond guiding our codes, our conduct.
Okay, thank you very much.
It goes beyond our conduct. As we proceed, you will come to know why. I will
All
explain
right, thank
further.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Take care. All right, bye. Bye, everyone.
Hello?
Bye.
Oh, I can still see another hand.
Yeah,
Okay. Please, who is speaking? Is that Mr.
yeah,
Marcus James?
yes, I'm Marcus James speaking.
Okay,
Marcus,
please speak up.
yeah, based on competency, while you were taking us on the basic principles and components of ethics, for competency's sake, is it expedient for someone to do a referral when such a person knows quite too well that he could not handle such a situation? In social work, we have units whereby this is social welfare and this is a health social worker. Is there need for what do you have to say for referral if you can't handle a particular case? Is it expedient to refer it to another to handle for competency sake?
Beautiful question from Mr. James. Mr. James, thank you for that question. The direct answer to your question is yes. In fact, referrals in itself is a demonstration of competence. You see, by the time you begin to think social work, you act social work. There are no two ways about it. And it's a beautiful thing when we begin to think and act
Okay.
social work. Outside there, people believe that if I refer, it's like I am not qualified, I'm not
Competent enough.
smart,
Yeah.
I'm not
I'm not
competent
capable.
enough. But in social work,
Mm.
that's the contrary. If you refer, it shows your competence because you need to be competent enough to identify a better professional to handle that situation. That means you even understand the situation more.
Yeah.
Do you know that medical settings, sometimes some
Yeah.
medical doctors will waste time, you will spend resources before they even identify the actual problem because they are trying to
Yeah.
satisfy
Mm-hmm.
their, like I say, their complex issue. When they know that
Yes.
this
Yes.
thing is cancer, but they are not cancer experts, they will still want to go
Yes.
further, wasting
Mm.
resources, wasting time, and before they will refer you, it's even late in most cases. That's why you see most times
Yeah.
record death.
I've seen
There
cases
was
like
there was this period my student called me. My student my PG student was working that works with a hospital, an orthopedic hospital. There was a day he just called me, sir, please, I have this client, and I want to refer this client to where he or she can receive help. Where do I refer the clients to? That was a shock. Like, he needed me to recommend a place. And I immediately, without wasting time, I recommended a place. Now, your competency can also be demonstrated by you knowing and understanding various agencies within your locality where you can refer clients to. Because oftentimes, the fact that you're a social worker, people will come with multiple problems that are not even your area of specialization. So
yeah. Yeah.
you must be able to know where to refer these various clients to. That is you demonstrating competence. That is
Okay.
competence.
Thank you very much. At least I can refer lesbians to somewhere else.
All right, take care and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank
All
you,
right,
sir.
thank you, sir.